Go live.
Kia ora tātou, me inoi tātou. Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga. Kia mā kina kina ki yuta, kia mā taratara ki tai. E hi ake ana te atakura, he tio, he hauhu, tihei, mauri ora. Āmene.
Āmene.
Right, welcome
Thanks, Poto.
to our meeting today. It's now live streaming on YouTube, and it's great to see you all here. I'm so sorry that we aren't in the live space. We thought we were going to make it, but no, not today either. However, I will now move on to our apologies. We have received one from Jeff Cannon. Are there any others that anyone knows of? Okay, could we have a mover and a seconder? Thank you, Graham, and thank you, Phil. All in favour? Aye. Hands up.
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. And now, point 2, disclosure of members' interest. Is there anything that we need to discuss? No, heads are shaking. We'll move on to tab 3, late items. Are there any late items that would like to be brought up? No, it appears to have no. So we'll move on to the confirmation of the order of the meeting. We'd like a recommendation and move in a seconder for that. Thank you, Jim. And a seconder, thank you, Graham. All in favour? Hands up. Favour. Excellent. Thank you. Okay, the confirmed minutes. So these are the minutes that we had in November 2020, one whole year ago. So we're just going to roll through the pages, and if there's any points that anyone would like to bring up. So we're on to page 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and then we've got the review, etc. So right through to the end, which is 19. Are there any points of interest, of concern? Could we have a mover and a seconder, please?
I'll move.
Thank you, Roger, and a seconder.
I presume I was at that meeting. Yes, I was.
I think you were. Yes, you were. I'll move. All those in favour? Aye.
Aye.
And passed. Lovely. Okay, now we've got the Maungatautari operations reports, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them, which I will pass in one move. But first, perhaps Phil would like to speak to which one you want to concentrate on, or take the highlights out of each one.
Yeah, thank you. Look, good to see everybody. What a kia ora tali. What I'd like to do is just perhaps talk to the latest, given that covers the last 4 months. And then I would, obviously, if there are any questions from any of the other documents as well, please feel free to fire away afterwards. What I would like to do as well, I will talk to most of the document, but I'll invite Dr. Janelle Ward to take you through all of the species update, as this is Janelle's area of expertise. But look, the team are here as well, so if there are any questions afterwards, obviously fire away. So this is the July to October report, and typically we would do July to September, but given just the way things have been sort of moved around a little bit, thought possibly it might be prudent to include October just in case. So I'll just start from the beginning. So part 1 of the report looks at incursions and breaches. So year to date, there have been 8 incursions of pests at Maungatautari. We had ship rat tracking in July. We've had 3 incursions of possums in September. And the police report that all the possums were caught, and a subsequent possum detection dog was brought to the Maunga week of the 20th of September with no further possums being detected. Also, ship rat tracking was picked up in 3 locations in October. And at the moment we have live incursion responses in place across all of these locations. In terms of fence management, there have been 8 fence breaches at Maungatautari in this financial year. And now I'd just like to hand over to Janelle, who will take you through 1.3, the species updates.
Kia ora tātou, ko Janelle Ward, toko ingoa. For the month of October, there were 11 brown kiwi released this year, and that brings our total towards the end of October of 339 kiwi that we have introduced to the mountain. And it's looking really good for that, and we're doing some monitoring at the moment, including some fence line monitoring with up to 20 cameras. And this is part of the strategy with the Kiwis for Kiwi for starting to plan for translocations out from the mountain in the next couple of years. We have both takahe pairs that we have at Maungatautari have attempted nesting so far this season. They started in September. Unfortunately, one of the pairs by the end of October was unsuccessful. The eggs were not viable, and unfortunately we had to destroy that nest, but we're hoping that she will nest again. But the very good news, which is technically November, is that we do have a chick hatched with our second pair in the Cooper's enclosure. So we're just waiting for our first video footage of that chick. In other exciting news, we have had some progress with the Kokako potential translocation in future, with some funding received from the Department of Conservation to initiate the prototype fence modifications to prevent Kokako from climbing out of the sanctuary. So by the end of November, we will have a prototype in place, is the plan. In terms of surveys this year, unfortunately, we have had a number of hold-ups due to the COVID lockdowns. Luckily, none of us will have a long-term detrimental effect, but there has been some impact. So, for instance, with our Hihi annual survey, we did have to cut this short this year, and normally we'd have 40 days. It was much reduced, but the good news is she still thinks she has enough data for us to get a reasonably good population estimate, and she did think that our population is stable. With Titi Punamu that were introduced in May and June this year, we do have some obligations under our permit to provide surveys, and one of those was supposed to be completed in the spring pre-breeding, and unfortunately, as we were all in lockdown, we've been unable to complete that. The good news is that we have had a summer intern from Otago University who will be coming to stay at the Maunga once we can do under COVID conditions. And he's going to be tracking and monitoring Titi Punamu over the summer. Our Hochstedter's frog survey has had to be postponed multiple times, but in speaking to EcoQuest, we will be able to achieve that next year. We've also made some progress on starting some fish surveys again at Maungatautari, which there's been quite limited fish surveys happen since some species were released over 10 years ago. And it'll be great to make some progress on this, and we've got some help through NIWA. And then lastly, we've got within our report a couple of reports on deceased wildlife that were found at the sanctuary. One was a kiwi who was found to have drowned, and one was a tiiki who was actually found outside of the fence and was predated on. So just showing the importance of that fence and stopping, you know, the rats and stoats and stuff attacking our taonga species. We've also got a number of research projects ongoing, and they're listed in the report there. But most of those have actually been on hold with no visits to the Maunga throughout the COVID lockdown. And we've just got one that's restarted recently. And that's me. Thank you.
Thank you, Janelle. Thank you. And just moving through to section 2 of the report for health and safety. July to October, we've had a total of 3 accidents and 2 incidents. I would also like to report, although it's not covered in this report, we did have a notifiable event at the beginning of November, which was reported to WorkSafe. which has been cleared by WorkSafe now, and fortunately everybody who was involved in the event is safe and well and back at work. But it was during the windy day that we had on the 3rd of November, and we had a tree that actually fell across one of our tracks and landed on top of the ute. So we're obviously very relieved that everybody's okay, and as I say, WorkSafe have signed off and yeah, just said, you know, carry on. So we are doing, and obviously we will always review things like that, and just to see if there are any things that we can do better, just to try and prevent those things happening. Cool. And then just moving through to our section 3 on visitors, we have had an interesting first 5 months of operation, moving in and out of lockdown, and obviously with border closures, which we all are obviously very familiar with now. And that has obviously translated into a significant reduction in our visitors. So year to date, we are approximately 51% below pre-COVID visitor numbers. And then again, compared to 2020, we are down as well, and just the way the lockdowns have been falling. So we are projecting that we will have a reduction in visitor numbers this year. But from a financial perspective, we're still very robust, and have done some good work around sponsorship, funding, and donations as well. So and also we've been recipients of the wage subsidy as well. Then moving through to project section 4, again relating to just the challenges that COVID is presenting. Our education centre build has now been postponed until February 2022, and we have experienced some delays because of COVID, and also there are some supply chain issues that are flowing through into the project as well. But that's now hopefully looking at February 2022 is locked in. And then Jobs for Nature, over the last, it's in October and November, we started off 4 new Jobs for Nature rangers, who all started on the 1st, it was, I think, from memory. And then also we have just started our new sanctuary manager, Bodie Taylor, and Bodie joined the team on the 18th of October. And finally, our Toil Hall My Ranger Cadetship, that concluded on the 6th of September, and we're working to reintroduce that from March of 2022. Any questions?
Just, you've done an amazing job with all your growth in Kiwi numbers and kakapo fence potentials, and loads of exciting stuff happening. I know that the possum infiltrating into the mountain is a worry. Now, I remember back when we were first building that fence, we did some quite aggressive management on the edges of the mountain to protect and remove those predators, those pests. Is this kind of coming back into a need, do you think, where we need to try and remove it from the edges of the mountain and the fence rather? There seems like it's happening as soon as you have a break-in of a tree fall. Yeah.
I think absolutely. I think, and team, jump in here where you'd like to. I mean, the only comment I would say, and I can see Dan's removed his mute, so I'll hand over to Dan shortly, who's our biosecurity team leader. But definitely opportunities around working with community groups is a real opportunity. And I know that certainly from the Cambridge, there's been some good initiatives recently launched. And again, they've been sort of stop and start with the COVID. But Dan, I'll hand over to you because I'm sure you can add a lot more value than I.
Kia ora, Dan Howie, tuku ingoa. Thanks for the intro, Phil. Yeah, I think there really is value into exploring tracking outside the fence again. There are 2 schools of thought on this subject. There are some people who would argue that trapping outside the fence potentially opens those areas up to be reinvaded by new incoming pests. And sometimes when you have a resident population alongside the fence line, those resident animals set up a territory and realize they can't get through the fence and stop testing it. And so they deter other pests. So there is a bit of an argument that, you know, that's not necessarily the right way to go. But in my opinion, I absolutely agree. Preemptive control, you know, around the fence line is definitely an area we want to get into and do more of. And there's a few challenges there around, you know, access and where we can't and where we can and cannot trap and things like that. But yeah, absolutely. I think that's a good piece of work to look into. It's probably more of a challenge around resources more than anything else. Yeah.
Okay, any other questions?
Oh, sorry, Ellen, can I just ask, was there an obvious route of invasion, if you like? Was there a tree fall or something like that that got the possums in, or don't we know?
I have a couple theories. So for one area in particular, I think, so you'll be really familiar, Jim. You know, there's areas where the vegetation is growing quite close to one another on both the inside and the outside of the fence. And in one of those areas, I suspect, and I can't confirm this, that the intruder has possibly made a leap from a nearby ponga that was growing. And in one of the other areas, we had a tree fall in that area, you know, within the preceding sort of month. So that was possibly the culprit there. Unfortunately, as you well know, it's kind of difficult to really have a smoking gun, so to speak. But yeah, those are my suspicions. Yeah. Yeah. Mm.
Well, it's good to have those suspicions, isn't it, rather than no clue at all, because otherwise you start worrying whether the fence is as good as we hope.
Yeah, absolutely. So going back to that vegetation, those trees have since been trimmed back by our operations team leader, James, for that reason, just in case. Yeah, certainly difficult to nail it down in particular. But yeah, work being done in that area.
I think another real point is the fact that we got cameras detected the possums. And Craig, I don't know if you want to just add a little bit, Craig, around the camera deployment that we've used, but the cameras and technology have been a godsend, and we wouldn't necessarily have known the possums were there without the cameras. So do you want to just give a very brief overview, Craig, of the deployment of cameras and the value, really?
Okay, so I'll try and keep this as succinct as I can. So with my Kiwi work, with the future work we've got coming up, I'm trying to identify Kiwi densities along the entire fence line to sort of identify spaces where it'll be nice and easy to catch a lot of Kiwi. But in saying that, I always had the plan to place them in such a way that I can actually capture pests either inside or the outside as well, so we can sort of know what's going on the outside and within the inside. I didn't expect to be picking up possums as fast as I did, because we had no sign of anything within the fence. But at the moment, in the area that we have trapped those 3 possums are the only areas I have detected possums within the perimeter ring. But yeah, it's ongoing. I've only got 10 cameras in operation now because 10 aren't telling me the dates properly. But yeah, so. So hopefully we can get the whole of the Maunga covered in cameras. That would be fantastic. But anyway, thanks, Craig. Cool. Any other questions for myself or the team?
Okay. All right. The recommendation is to receive the reports. Do we have a seconder, a mover and a seconder, please?
Yeah, I'll move.
Thank you, Jim, and thank you, Phil. All in favour? Aye. Passed. Lovely. Okay, now we're moving on to the annual report. Back to Phil.
Yeah, thank you, Olwen. So I'm hoping technology is not going to let us down here, but I believe you should have a presentation of our annual reports. That we presented at the AGM, and that was towards the end of October. So the actual AGM presentation went for 1 hour and 20. But Freeman has been able to do an abridged version of that. So we have a 33-minute, I think it's 14-second presentation to share with you. And just before we roll the presentation, could I just perhaps ask the team to introduce yourselves just briefly to everybody? Because at the end of the day, these are the people who do all the amazing work here at Maungatautari, and you all anyway. So just very quickly, maybe Janelle, well, obviously, Tali, would you like to introduce yourself?
Kia ora koutou, ko Tali toko ingoa. I'm Tali, I'm the education team leader at Sanctuary Mountain. So mostly focused on the schools program with that.
Cool, thank you. And Freeman, do you want to say a quick hello?
You're mute.
No.
Now.
Yeah.
All right, there we go. There we go. Unplug and plug it back in. Yeah, perfect. Kia ora koutou. My name's Freeman Ihu, and I'm the marketing manager at Sanctuary Mountain Maungatautari. So yeah, my job is I get to share all the wonderful work that we do. So I get to hear a little bits and sprinkles, I guess, of all the different departments. So thank you very much for having me here.
Thanks, Freeman. And obviously you've met Craig, Janelle, and Dan. So welcome, team, and Porto, as well as our co-chair as well. It's lovely to see you as well. And have we got anybody else here from the team that hasn't said hello? Not that I can see. No, that's good. Okay. So who is launching the presentation?
Freeman?
Sorry, Freeman, you're on mute again, mate.
Oh, no, yep. I don't mind. I thought I'd forwarded that through to the team, but I can bring it up. Okay. Now, I will share what's coming through. Okay. And is that showing, and is any sound coming through?
Kia ora koutou. Go full lines are home. Tonight's presentation will provide a snapshot of our annual report, showing the impact the Maunga is having and how we are working towards delivering our strategic and restoration plan goals. Shortly, I'd like to hand over to our amazing team. However, firstly, a brief overview of the year. Despite the sting of the long COVID tail, 2020 was a year of significant outcomes, delivered by the determination, skill, and dedication of our team of inspired Katiaki. Our agility as a team has sharpened our focus, nurturing new ideas, systems, and opportunities. This has translated into industry recognition, receiving Qualmark Gold Standard in December 2020 and being nominated as finalists in the New Zealand Tourism and the Waikato Business Awards. The long-term goals of our 10-year restoration plan are to increase the Indigenous dominance and species occupancy on Maungatautari and to increase the number of people who treasure the Maunga and are involved in its operation. Today, we'd like to share some highlights from our last financial year and some of our new initiatives for the next 12 months and show how we are progressing towards these goals. Before I hand over to the team, I'd like to provide some context to our presentation. In 2019, Sanctuary Mountain began aligning our reporting to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs. In early 2020, we joined the Waikato Wellbeing Project and embedded the United Nations SDGs into our systems for collective impact. Simply put, we believe that by restoring the Maunga with our partners, we are positively impacting and contributing to the creation of strong, vibrant, and resilient communities. This is our theory of change. So tonight, our team's presentation will be in 3 parts. Firstly, we will share with you how our restoration mahi is having a positive impact and building an ecological foundation. Following this, part 2 of our presentation shows how our ecological foundation supports and builds social well-being. And finally, part 3 provides an overview of the importance of our partnerships and how they are intrinsically linked to our overall success. I would now like to invite Janelle, Warwick, Dan and Craig to tell of this great mahi, what they do daily to build a strong ecological foundation by sharing the mauri and mana of the Maunga. Team, over to you.
Kia ora, ko Janelle Ward toko inga, and I am the Species Coordinator at Sanctuary Mountain Maungatautari. On the top left here, I'm sharing some species survey data with you, and we have the hihi population estimates from surveys over the last few years since they were introduced. And you can see that in the previous survey in 2019, we had our highest population recorded yet. And the survey at the end of 2020, it finished around October 2020, did show a slight decline in the population estimate from that time. But overall, we do have a stable population, and the current hihi survey is going ahead in 2021. On the bottom left, I've got a graph here of the founding Kiwi population that have been released to Sanctuary Mountain Maungatautari, and we now have over 300 founders that have been released to the main mountain, and just over 100 of those released in the last year. On the bottom right, we've got the Kokako Census. So we were this year successful in achieving some funding to go ahead with our large Kokako Census, and we were able to employ Dave Bryden and co to do a fantastic census that showed us that we have just over 100 birds. So 101 territorial kokako were discovered at Maungatautari. This is actually more than double the previous survey, which happened in 2018, where we had about 44 territorial birds. And with more than a doubling of the population in 2 years, this is actually the fastest known growth rate of kokako on the mainland. In other species monitoring, we have, of course, we take close charge of our takahe pairings and their offspring. We have 2 pair of takahe at the mountain, and overall we've had 21 juveniles produced from these 2 pair, and we have 2 juveniles that were produced in the last financial year. These 2 were named Waiti and Waita, and because we introduced new males last year, they actually have some superior genetics and are up in the top genetically for the country. We also this year set up a permanent lizard survey plot in the southern enclosure, and this consists of 80 different stations over 8 transects and includes ground covers, tree covers, and monitoring tunnels. And we had our first survey at February 2021, and we only discovered 2 forest geckos at this time, but it was a really good start as we hadn't had it up in place for long. We're going to be making some mild changes to the tree covers over the next couple of months and hoping to do the next lizard survey later this year. Also in 2020 and 2021, in the last financial year, we managed to complete the tuatara survey, which was right on due at the 5-year mark. And we were able to find 27 plus tuatara in the tuatarium, in the wetland, and 24 plus tuatara at the other site where we have tuatara that we do not disclose. This included quite a number of juveniles and showed that they are breeding successfully and that some of those juveniles are being recruited into the population. And all of the adults that we caught were in really good body condition and looked great. And we found up to 75% of the initial founding tuatara, which was a really good result. We also had a frog survey this year. The EcoQuest does the frog surveys every 3 years, and it was due in 2021. So in April of 2021, we did the first part of the survey, with the second part due to occur in November 2021, of course, pending COVID restrictions. So this was immensely successful. It was the first time we'd used Sanctuary Mountain volunteers in quite a long time. And that's because EcoQuest, of course, can't bring in their American students to the country. So we were able to sort of take the place. And it was a great learning experience for many of our volunteers and staff, and with lots of people getting to see Hochstetter's frogs for the first time. We've also initiated a couple of fungal survey projects in the past financial year, including an iNaturalist project at Sanctuary Mountain Maungatautari. And with that iNaturalist site, we've so far identified over 64 different fungal species. And we also have a new researcher from Scion called Ian Hood, who's starting some wood fungi long-term research. Of course, one of the biggest events of the year was the Rifleman or Titi Punamu translocation, where we picked up 40 birds from Puriora Forest and 40 birds from Pirongia Mountain. And these were released in late May and early June. And it was an amazing experience. Everything went super well, and 100% of the birds released did fly off successfully. The plans are to, of course, survey these guys in the next couple of years to make sure that they're thriving and that they're breeding. Kakapo, they are due to be released at the end of 2022. And this financial year, I was actually really lucky to be able to go down to Whenua Hou and participate in some of the fence trials to see how kakapo would interact with the fence that we have here at Maungatautari. And that went really well. We do have now a modification in our design that we are currently testing and going to put to the next level. And if this is successful, which I think it will be, we hopefully will be well on track to receiving kakapo as planned in late 2022. We've also had some mild North Island kaka monitoring and a little bit of wild bird rehabilitation, as we had some injured birds this year that we took to Hamilton Zoo, and we are looking at a permit to extend our ability to be able to release captive bred kaka in the next following year. In other species management activities, obviously we continue our feeding for takahe, hihi and kaka. And we have a lot of research happening on the mountain over the past year and continuing. We have a number of universities that have got some ongoing projects that are happening around the mountain, and these include invertebrate genetics in abundance, tree phenology, and water quality. We've also got some significant restoration work happening in the Tautari wetland, and we're also starting in 2021 some plans for some new restoration work in the southwest of the mountain. So species monitoring to happen over the next financial year. We do have the second part of the frog survey to hopefully complete in November, and we're just starting a new process for fish survey. So we're going to be working with some colleagues at Niwa and designing a new fish survey so that we can see what's happened with those guys that were released some time ago now in both the southern enclosure and the wetland. Although we have a booming population of kokako, we have determined that there are not quite enough founders for really good genetic health of that population. So we are planning to translocate up to another 20 birds over the next couple of years. And that hopefully will first start happening in 2022 with birds potentially coming from Tiritiri Mātangi. We are seeking funding for that, and it will be determined on securing that funding in time to be able to plan this successfully. And last but not least, we will continue with upgrading our lizard surveys plots in the southern enclosure, and we hope to carry out another survey in summer of 2022. Thank you.
I whānau mai au I te taha o te awa o Kirikiriroa. I raro I te maru o te maunga o Pirongia. He uru ahau no Scotland, no Denmark, no England. Ke te nohu o ke o haupo. Ko Dan Howie tuku ingoa. Tēnā koutou katoa. Greetings everyone, my name is Dan Howie and I'm the Biosecurity Team Leader here at Sanctuary Mountain Maungatautari. The Biosecurity and Operations Team are mainly concerned with detecting and eradicating pests on the maunga and maintaining the predator-proof fence. This work is essential for Sanctuary Mountain to achieve its sustainable development goals of protecting native flora and fauna on the maunga and allowing the ecosystem there to thrive. The last year saw a total of 13 pest incursions to enclosures at Maungatautari. Two of these incursions were from mice, 8 from ship rats, and 3 from weasels. The map on the screen indicates where these incursions happened. Blue squares show where weasels have been tracked, red dots where ship rats have been detected or tracked, and yellow triangles where mice have been detected. For all of these incursions, pest responses were put in place and all enclosures are once again pest-free, with the exception of the northern enclosure where an ongoing pest response has been conducted. Some of the highlights for our team over this past year: we had a visit from the DOC Conservation Dogs program where around 20 handlers came to the maunga and swept the mountain searching for a variety of pest species, including rodents, mustelids, Argentine ants, plague skinks, and the like. It was a great opportunity to test the pest-free status of the maunga and for our team to collaborate and share knowledge with peers in the industry. James and his rodent detection dog Rua achieved interim certification in this year, and we're also privileged to have cadets join our team from both the Te Puni Kokiri cadetship program and through a relationship with Toi Ohomai. Some of the important work coming up in the biosecurity space over the next year. We had a review conducted on Sanctuary Mountain's biosecurity plan last year, and our team are currently working through the recommendations from that review. Probably the most visible one will be the installation of biosecurity stations at entrances to all enclosures on the maunga. This is boot brush and bag check stations, effectively. Another interesting development in the next year to come is the recruitment of 4 new team members via Jobs for Nature funding. These recruits will help our team considerably and will be concerned mainly with fence replacement and track maintenance on the maunga. Over the past financial year, our team responded to 86 after-hours fence call-outs and several more through the day. 7 of these call-outs were for significant events, causing a total of 9 sections of fence to be destroyed. The map on the top of the screen shows where these fence breaches happened. Red dots are where vegetation has struck and damaged the fence or formed a bridge across the fence, and the blue square is where a culvert was found jammed open as a result of a storm event. Also, the operations team has been conducting a variety of maintenance work. The map in the bottom right of the screen indicates where this work has happened. The blue line indicates where track maintenance was conducted on the Wairewa Reverse and on the Northern Perimeter Road. The green line indicates where weed spraying has been conducted right the way around the maunga on many of the access tracks. The pink line indicates where tree felling was conducted by arborists, where dead and dying trees were threatening the fence. And the orange line indicates where hedge trimming was conducted on the forest margin for the majority of the way around the maunga. Also, our team has been conducting an upgrade of our EDAC dialers, which is the system that alerts us when there's a fence breach. This upgrade will allow the system to remain compatible with upgrades to the cellular network in the region, and the team continues to working on replacing slumping culverts right the way around the maunga. Important pieces or some exciting developments for the operations team in the year to come is the replacement of the aging components of the fence right the way around the maunga. And once again, this will be assisted by Jobs for Nature recruits. This will ensure that the fence continues to protect the precious ecosystem of our maunga for a long time into the future. Kia ora.
Kia ora tātou, ko Craig Montgomery aho. I am the Kiwi Ranger here at Sanctuary Mountain Maungatautari, and I conduct most of the, if not all of the Kiwi work here at the Sanctuary. So in total, the Sanctuary has now received 311 founding Western North Island brown Kiwi. 72 of those from the original releases that happened here from 2005 to 2015. But since 2018, I've been a part of releasing 239 of the new Kiwi kohanga founders. So in the last year, it's been quite transformational as far as the surveys that we are starting to roll out on the mountain. The biggest piece of work this year has been the Kiwi Conservation Dog Survey. We had Tom Donovan and James McLaughlin from up north come down and conduct a 60-day survey of the mountain with the goal of finding as many Kiwi as we possibly could. The goal behind that was to detect all those Kiwis and scan them with a microchip reader. Microchips are obviously what the founding Kiwis have implanted under their wing. And so based on microchip versus non-microchip, we can find out a ratio of what the Kiwi are doing on the mountain. So after those 60 days, we found 47 Kiwis. 11 of those were founders, which could indicate that we have a very, very successful breeding population on the mountain, because 36 of those were wild-bred Maungatautari birds. Which is really exciting. We always suspected they were doing really well, but it's really good to have some really concrete evidence that this is actually happening. And then we had our first official Kiwi call count survey. We had 5 sites all over the mountain, which we monitored for 4 consecutive days. Now to do that, I had to recruit a lovely bunch of volunteers, and we had a training day. Which I think we had about 60 people turn up to that particular day, and was hugely successful. And I think it was probably about 95% of those people actually came and participated in that survey. Amazing results, 16.8 calls per hour. Nothing too alarming, but very exciting results in that. But the highest result at one site was 75 calls in 1 hour. So yeah, exciting. Watch the space. And this year I have also deployed trail cameras around the fence line, and this is a new monitoring technique that we're going to trial and refine as we go, which I'll go into in the next slide a bit deeper. Yeah, so this year coming up, really exciting. It's our 4th season of releases. Probably going to be our last season, based on our surveys that we conducted in the last financial year, indicating that the mountain is really, really breeding really well. Okay, so the original goal was to release 500 Kiwi onto the maunga as part of the kohanga strategy with Save the Kiwi. But because the population is doing so well, we're going to probably tie-ho this year, and we're probably going to get closer to 380 to 400 releases in total since 2018. So monitoring adult Kiwi maunga. So during the Kiwi dog survey, we put transmitters on 9 birds on the mountain, And this is so we can start territory mapping. So territory mapping can indicate how big, well, it'll tell us how big territories are, but if it's a large territory, we can see that there's lots of space for the kiwi. If it's a small territory, we can see that there's a little bit of overcrowding. But at the moment, it's already looking like they're not overcrowded and they're very, very happy kiwi. And what else am I going to say? I'm also going to continue observing the movement on kiwi on the fence. So not just with the cameras are we just taking pictures of kiwis and sort of calculating indexes or densities on the fence line, but we're also going to deploy transponder loops. So these are remote microchip readers that will sit on the fence line, and they will be able to tell us how many kiwi are running the fence line that are founding birds. So if we get a bit like the dog survey, out of 4 kiwi, one of those kiwis is a transponded bird, that will give us a 1:4 ratio. This will also help us when we come to our capturing of the kiwi, because we don't want to see one of these spending lots of dog hours in an area where there's lots of transponded birds, because obviously the founders are supposed to stay on the mountain. With the camera work also, we're using it as a pest detection tool as well. So we are deploying zip motor lures, which is a device that fixes to the fence or a tree and pushes out a wee bit of mayonnaise every 24 hours. And this will help passively encourage pests to come and interact with this device, and then I can capture pictures alongside my kiwi work and tell us if there's a pest or not. So yeah, something we've never done before, but all very exciting all the same. Yeah, we're going to repeat the mark and recapture survey, which is a 30-day survey, and will give us an indication on how much the breeding has changed in the last 12 months. Because of course this year, the first year of kohanga birds will start breeding, so we can expect the breeding and pool of juveniles to rapidly increase in the next 1 to 2 years. And we'll also repeat the Kiwi call survey because it's a nice universal piece of survey technique that is used all through New Zealand. And even though we've only just started using it, it's a good place to start, and it's a good way to substantially capture the densities, or just calling birds within a sanctuary, just an index. So cool. All right. Well, thank you very much. And that's me.
Tēnā koutou katoa, ko Tali toko ingoa. We've been really fortunate this year to be able to provide learning experiences for 2,790 students and 662 adults, a total of 3,452 education visitors on site at Maungatautari. Most of these education visitors have come from within the Waikato and Bay of Plenty regions. These numbers reflect a 16% increase compared to the previous year that was of course impacted by a full school term in lockdown. This year we've also been impacted by the stop-start nature of changing alert levels. However, we have been able to deliver to a wide range of groups, and I'll share some of those through photographs on the next couple of slides as well. To the highlights. So teachers have indicated to us a 97% satisfaction with the programs that we deliver, and also a 97% satisfaction with the student engagement in these programs. So this is a fantastic result to see. I'd like to thank and acknowledge all of our educators for their hard work in facilitating these experiences. We've also had 3 new education contractors join our team this year, and they have dived straight on in and done a great job with our school groups. So thank you to all of you for your support and your contributions. I'd also just like to take the opportunity to thank the wider Sanctuary Mountain team as well, as they support our education program in a variety of ways, some of which you'll see shortly in photographs too. We've also been working hard on our pre-visit and post-visit resource materials for teachers that can support them in a visit to Maungatautari, and these resources are available on our website. Post-visit resources in particular focus on the actions that students can take either at home or back at school for conservation outcomes once they've had their visit. We've also initiated an e-newsletter that gets sent out to schools once per school term. And this enables us to share stories of what's happening on the Maunga, but also opportunities and resources that are available for teachers within our education program. We have close to 300 subscribers for that newsletter. And if you are a teacher involved with a school, or you know some teachers that might like to sign up to this e-newsletter, you can do so by going to the education section on our website. I'd also just like to thank a couple of people here. So in the photograph down below, the 4 students shown there are Year 2-3 students from Selwyn Ridge Primary School in Tauranga. And at the end of the year last year, they visited us, having raised $400 at school that they donated during their visit. So thank you to them for that. And also thank you to Mother Earth for their ongoing support of our education program. At the moment, in the education space in New Zealand, the New Zealand curriculum is undergoing a refresh that includes a bicultural framework. NCEA in our high schools is also undergoing a change program. The environment that we are all working in at the moment as well means that it's important to look to alternative ways for us to provide opportunities, provide learning experiences for schools in the digital space or virtual space. So this year we will continue to build our relationship with schools and continue to develop our education program experiences in the light of these changes. We are also looking forward to the building of our education centre and the opportunities that will afford our program as well. So I hope that these few photographs have shown you that schools really value a visit to Maungatautari to provide a real life experience, to make connections and to extend their knowledge and to bring to life their classroom learning.
Tēnā koutou katoa, ko Rosie Kahalane, tōku ingoa. I look after the guided tour program and the wellbeing program. So over the 2021 period, we did 430 tours to 1,463 visitors. That did see an increase, which is quite remarkable given the current situation, of 7.4%. 18% of our visitors to Maungatautari do a guided tour, so that's 82% that don't. So there is a real opportunity there to move these to guided tours. Popular tours are our seasonal forest tour and our wetlands tour. You can only do the wetlands tours with a guide. So that's where we've got our two taonga species, tuatara and takahe. We did 35 night tours over that period. That accounted for 18% of our revenue. What we are missing here is inbound tour operators. So our overseas visitors, we've had no inbound tours for 18 months. And in previous years, those have accounted for about 36% of our guided tours. So that increase is actually our regional visitors. We've had lots of Aucklanders and the Waikato and Bay of Plenty visitors, so that's great. So the focus for the coming year is to focus on our local tour operators. This can be really beneficial in that groups coming in come back as individuals, so they come back and bring their whānau to visit. We want to have a monthly calendar of themed and specialty tours, so there's something on offer each month that's a bit different. We're also introducing rongoa tours with our local practitioners.
So in summary, our partnership, through our partnerships, we are delivering our theory of change and contributing to a region where Maungatautari Maunga is a sacred source of spiritual pride and prestige for Mana Whenua and our wider Waikato communities. Endangered native fauna, waterways and flora are healthy and thriving. Forest recreational activities will be enhancing the physical, mental and spiritual well-being of our communities. Mana Whenua will be actively connecting and using their land for social, cultural and economic well-being. Jobs are being created with conservation, education and tourism, contributing to the Waikato economy by telling our ecological and cultural story. And finally, our tamariki will understand their role as future kaitiaki. Kia ora, everybody. I'd now like to open the floor up for any questions. Thank you. I couldn't have said it better myself. Any questions?
Well, Phil, it's an exceptional presentation. You lead a really amazing team. They come forward with an inspiration I've written down, achieving an innovative and also diverse in a very difficult year. And you've excelled. It's been an amazing presentation of what you've been doing. Fantastic. So well done. Yeah. Any questions, anyone?
Yep. No, just from me too. Just well done, everybody. You guys got so much passion for this, and it's phenomenal what we've got here in our area. So well done to everyone on that. So thank you.
Just one question on the luring of predators to, did you say mayonnaise? It wasn't peanut butter? I think
yeah,
it was
Zip down in the West Coast, who were doing a massive landscape scale pest eradication, developed a dispenser using Best Foods mayonnaise.
Oh, well done.
And so, yeah, possums love it, rats love it, mice love it, stoats love it. So it's kind of like this magical little tool. And we get stuff to put in our sandwiches at the end of the day.
Well done.
Elwyn, can I just say, I found that presentation so heartening. You know, as the former Waikato conservator, it's been a while since I've connected with that level of detail with the project. And, you know, Phil and the team, the progress you've made, just outstanding. Really, really heartening.
Yeah. Thanks, Greg. I think the reality is, I mean, it's the work that's been going on for the last 20 years. And I think it's just really that every year every year has its own challenge, I think, for 20 years. And we just all keep building and we keep the momentum going. So it's a credit to everybody. And I'd also like to add, it's a credit to all our partners as well. I mean, it's everybody who's on this screen, you know, everybody's contributing. And also, there's a lot of the team who aren't here as well. So, you know, there's just you know, it's everybody who's got it to where it is today. So, you know, everybody needs to say well done to each other, I think. And it is wonderful what's happening. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, no further questions. We've got a recommendation here to receive the Sanctuary Mountain 2021 report. I'd like a mover and a seconder. Thank you, Roger and Phil. All those in favour? Aye. And passed. All right. Okay. So we've now completed and we're now moving on to the Hicks Road discussion, which will be presented by John Miles. There he is. Hello, John.
Good afternoon. Yeah, just a quick update. So we've got 2 of the 3 agreements in hand. The other one, I understand, is in the scanner. So we should have that back today or tomorrow. So all the agreements are in place. Massive blowfly. So what we need to do now is to go through the Maori Land Court process. So Phil Lang is drafting all the required documents. We need to do that. The landowners are comfortable with us drafting them. We need a couple of affidavits, and there was an injunction that needs to be withdrawn, and there was a 2 road orders that are being surrendered. So we've got sign off from the adjoining landowner in relation to that. So it's all ready to go. It's just a matter of pulling the paperwork together and getting a court date to see that in place. Gary Knighton spoke to one of the landowners this morning. The agreement was always to try and open the gate, even though the documentation hadn't been lodged or finalised. So we're working with those landowners on doing that. There's a couple of issues we just need to address, which are relatively minor, that we can sort out in the next day or so. And then it's pretty much, hopefully, prior to Christmas, we'll have the gate and the walkway open.
Wow, that is good news. It's been a huge effort, and well done you both, you and Gary, to reach that step in time for New Year, the Christmas. That'll be excellent. Yeah, well done. Okay, so a recommendation to receive John's report. A mover and a seconder, please. Thank you, Graham, and thank you, Poto. All in favour, say aye. They're passed. Thank you. Okay, the Landowners Agreement. So that presentation is being presented by Greg. Here we go, Greg.
Oh, kia ora koutou katoa. Yeah, well, it's, as for everyone, it's been a challenging year for sure, working with landowners and in these sort of times. The main achievement in recent months has been Pukeahu Farms Limited, so Quinn Dellinger's property. And, you know, over 2.5 kilometres of fence and 2.53 hectares of land behind the fence. So I managed to get his agreement signed up late in August on the mudguard of his trailer up by his wool shed in the back of the property. And since then, of course, we've had all the lockdowns and so on. And so getting the documents signed and through the system has been somewhat challenging. So they were signed, I think, by the Maungatautari Trust before we were due to have our last Reserve Committee meeting. And then that, of course, got cancelled at the last minute. So those documents were passed to the council, and I'll need to check with Sally whether they have been signed. I know they had 2 signatures, but I think we were still waiting for one.
So if I can through the chair, yes, they have been signed, and so we're just now waiting the legal documentation to process them. So happy to say that the documents have been signed at our end, and definitely no one being in the offices hasn't helped that process in terms of timing, but good news on that front. So thanks to those who have helped out to get that done.
Yeah, so it's great to hear that. It's I must admit that COVID puts another level of challenges into this with documents in the system, and also, you know, the extreme patience that landowners have to show while these things work their way through the system. It's difficult enough in ordinary times without the challenges of COVID. So ahead of us, we've got Richard and Gay Hicks's property. So 1.4 kilometres of fence on there and 0.33 hectares of land, I think, or 33 hectares of land behind the fence. No, it can't be that much. But so I still have to approach the Hickses on Luckett Last Road. And then once that is negotiated, there just remain 2 properties to revisit. So that's Peter and Sandra Holmes. And you may well recall that Peter had some issues about not wanting to sign any documents. So that's just something to be revisited and see if we can get that over the line. And similarly, Peter and Kerry Watson. So those 2 properties adjoin one another. And I think, you know, certainly haven't ruled out achieving those, but that probably won't be before Christmas. So that's where we're at, and that actually completes the full, I think, 24 landowners around the Maunga, and then of course leaves the challenge of managing to get similar things completed for the Māori land, of which of course there's several blocks and quite a process to deal with that.
So if I can through the chair, we did also did also print a map to give everybody in terms of the maunga and the different land parcels. I have those hard copies, so the next time that we see each other, I'm happy to hand those copies out to you as well. So that just gives you a view over the maunga.
Thank you, Sally. Okay, any questions? All good. All right.
No question, Elwyn, but just a comment, and I was waiting till the end pretty much, but just a huge thank you from me. It's obviously a project that's really dear to my heart, but Greg, you know, your persistence there in getting those landowner agreements signed, I take my hat off to you. It was always going to be a challenge, and to Poto and Phil and the team, it's just a fantastic project to be associated with and have in the Waipa district. So thanks for all your effort, and yeah, look, the gains keep coming. So it's now obviously starting to look at what point the fence needs replacing, I suppose. Yeah. Next challenge. But look, a huge thank you from me personally, but from the council as well. You know, it's a phenomenal project, and it's ticking all the boxes from a conservation point of view, and it's just fantastic to have it in Waipa.
Mm. Yes, I so would agree with you, Jim. Totally amazing that we've got this piece of treasure and cared for so beautifully with all these good people. Okay, so I just need to the recommendation, and I've lost my notes, hold on, here they come back. The landowner agreement to receive that presentation. Could I have a mover and seconder, please? Poto? Yep. And Jim. Those in favour? Nay. And passed. Thank you very much. Well done, all you good people. You make an amazing team. It's just fantastic. It's a delight to be able to share it with you and to be here today. Next time we might be live in the room. Let's hope. Okay. All good. All right then.
Ask
my
through
secretary
the chair, if Poto would like to do a closing karakia.
That would be lovely. Thank you, Poto.
Yes, certainly. Phil, did I hear you mention the business awards?
I think I did about 3 times.
Did you? Just making sure.
Did everybody know we're in the business awards finals? So yeah, no, I did. So thanks.
Aye, good stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. Me noi tātou. Kia tau tātou katoa, te ata whai o tō tātou ariki a ihu karaiti. Me te aroha o te atua, me te whiwhinga tahitanga ki te wairua tapu. Ake. Āmene.